So controls are similar to the Tuono?
Exactly the same.
Is it?
Yep, everything's exactly the same. The only thing that's different is...
I'm gonna have to change my underwear after this.
You may, yeah.
Better be alert. I might just throw a random fry in the middle. Oh, who's faster? That was good.
RSV4 factory. Oh yeah. Just took that out. Now we're doing the big boy.
Power is very much, so just be careful.
Okay.
Be aware of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially as you get above 6,000 RPM.
12,000, there's 1,200 horsepower right here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking F1 cars, so let's just try not to kill anybody.
Alright, we're going to do a clean sweep of the 1100s today. Took out the standard Aprilia Tuono, 1100 Tuono, and then I took out the factory 1100 Tuono, and now I'm taking out the RSV4 factory. Good two-finger clutch. Alright, here we go. Here at Thousand Oaks Motorsports. RSV4, got the friggin' wings on here and everything. How awesome is this? All these Aprilia bikes are factory bikes. They're not the dealer bikes. So these bikes just saw, they were doing a track day out at Buttonwillow. So that's why the tires on these things are shredded, which is fucking awesome. Can you imagine going to a track day and just showing up and you get to ride a friggin' 1100 RSV4 factory? Yeah, it's boggy. Very boggy off the line. The seat is very, very comfortable. I like the way it's got a little bit of a scallop, like behind your sit bones. Good mid-range. I wouldn't say there's a lot down low. The motor's very unhappy in the, the 2,000 to 3,000 RPM range. Like the Tuono. Does not like that rev range at all. Both dynamically in terms of the vibratory response and then how it puts down power. It just doesn't like it. So you just got to keep the revs up. See how the flick is. Oh, flick is fucking unbelievable. God damn. Wow, I wish my 1199 flicked like this thing. Yeah, so the aerodynamics on this bike aren't so hot. Just all sorts of buffeting. Once we get it past the old laminar flow here, we'll see how it does as more, turbulent type flow on the highway or whatever. Yeah, so the motor is super smooth until you hit idle, and then it's real clattery. Blows the friggin' red light. Great power. Yeah, this thing has tons of juice. These friggin' mirrors are disposable. They're friggin' flopping all over the place. Same dash as the Tuono. I really like this dash. It's very clear. You don't get any glare from the sun like you do with my the TFT on my Ducati. But like I was saying before, Ducati set the trend with the 1199 Panigale with this hockey stick type tack, and so it took a couple of revisions for all the other motorcycle companies to jump on board, and as soon as they did, Ducati switches to an analog style digital dashboard, with the dial gauge. It's friggin' hilarious. Yeah, fuck those people, eh? The trick to living in California, it's a desert here, so as soon as you get away from the water, you're living in the desert. As I was saying before, William Mulholland brought water to LA, but you're living in the desert. So what I do, sort of a rule of thumb, is you don't drink water after you leave the house. If you're gonna go for a day-long ride, get a fucking gallon jug of water and drink like half of it. If you leave in the morning by like 10 or 11 o'clock, all that water has been sweated out of your system. So you gotta load up on the water. Oh, we got some bumps. Let's see how it does on the bumpity bumps. Not bad. Not as plush as the Tuono. As far as ride, I'd say it's pretty harsh. It's harsher than my 1199, definitely more so than the 1299, more than the V4 Ducati. The last generation S1000 is definitely more plush. S1000RR. I haven't ridden the latest generation S1000, so I can't really comment. It's a comfortable bike. It's not beating you up, but there's quite a bit of jounce. So when you do compress the suspension, you do get thrown around a little bit. Wheelie control 2, and traction control on 6. Alright, let's see what this friggin' thing will do. Yeah, this thing's pretty damn fast. Holy fudge. Yeah, that was a 3rd gear pull. Friggin' style limit brakes work. Nice blipper. A nice linear pull. Good mid-range. You know, once you hit about 5 grand, that mid-range power just continues and sweeps up through the full rev range. But I mean, even the Tuono with its 175 horsepower, granted it's got a little bit more mid-range, but that thing is way more power than you're ever going to need for the street. When you're riding through these, you know, backcountry California roads or canyons, the friggin' twisties, having something with a little bit more moderate power is easier to control. You're actually a little bit faster. So braking is really, really good. Really good. Good initial bite, good feel on the brake. Very confident in stopping power. No issues there at all. We got fucking porked by this stake back truck. Very flickable, yep. This thing does what my Ducati can't do, which is a nice quick flick all the way through the flick. Like, my bike flicks pretty good, but at that last like 1/3 of the flick, it starts to fight you a little bit, and then it's like, what the fuck? But this bike doesn't do that. You get a nice, smooth, linear, stable transition from side to side. The other thing about this bike is I don't need to use so much body weight to go around the corners. You can just sort of counter steer. Just stay off the center line a little bit to the inside of the corner and just goes around the corner really nicely. Very well balanced chassis. For some reason, this gearbox is just much nicer than the Tuono. Easier to shift, easier to find neutral. Even the quick shifter and the blipper is nicer. The transitions are better, smoother, not as herky-jerky. Like I was saying earlier, because you're sitting higher, you're putting more weight on your wrists. And I can feel it's like, usually you get the friggin' numb throttle hand when you ride a super bike. I usually don't get that on my 1199 until like a couple hours, hour and a half. That's usually when it starts. This thing, we've been to this ride, what, 10 minutes? So in terms of engine noise, I think everyone can appreciate how good this thing sounds. I think the only bike that may sound better, while subjective, I think is the Yamaha's R1. I think with like an equivalent exhaust system, I think the R1 just sounds a little bit better. The sound's a little bit more well-rounded. This has a great induction noise, but the exhaust note isn't as cool. Whereas I think the R1 has both ends of the spectrum. But I mean, this thing freaking smokes the R1 in terms of power. This thing has tons of juice. But you gotta be above 5 grand to enjoy it. So you just gotta be more mindful of what gear you're in. Keep the revs up a little bit. I mean, I don't know what it is, but you would think that this firmer seat is less comfortable, but this seat doesn't really have any hot spots compared to the Tuono. So yeah, you have a more aggressive riding position, but the seat's a little bit more comfortable. Peg height is a little higher, but again, the Tuono is a pretty aggressive riding position. Your legs are pretty high, so you can get a good lean angle. This has the same rocker type control as the Tuono, so it has a dedicated control set for the traction control. So thumb to go up in traction control, so more intrusion up to 8, and then index finger to bring the traction control down to 1, which is the least intrusive. The other parameters for the electronics package you adjust through this little toggly switch here. It's a little friggin' nipple, which is pretty slick. The suspension's a little bit firmer, so the ride frequency is a little higher than my Ducati. It's progressively sprung, so that first half inch or so is very comfortable, very compliant. It's not till you really hit some deep bumps that you start to feel it. Obviously good shock control. I mean, any of these sport bikes have good shock control. They're like critically damped. They're almost over damped, but very, very comfortable for a sport bike. For a 200 horsepower sport bike, Very, very comfortable. And I think this thing is putting out around 215 at the crank. Wow, God, this thing turns in so easy. I'm oversteering the turn. With my 1199, you got to kind of oversteer the turn and get in there sooner. And this thing just turned in so easy. I was like way, way inside. So yeah, the wind buffeting is kind of crappy. It's hitting the sides of your head, not really the top, but more the side of your head, which is kind of weird. So there's 70. Try top gear. Yeah, nothing in top gear. So same thing as the Tuono. 60 miles an hour in 6th gear, you freaking flog it, and all you get is induction noise and a lot of chatter from the valve train. Yeah, nothing in 70 either. So, like I said, this bike likes revs. Ugh, god damn. In the immortal words of Patrice O'Neill, ugh. Oh, the friggin' sucks. Ugh, yeah, hand is numb. I'm not over gripping, just more weight on the friggin' wrists. Is he gonna stop? He is. Alright, so let's try the old stop down gearbox test. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yep, nice. Perfect score, baby. While we're sitting here, I might as well talk about this bike first, the Tuono 1100. Mechanically, it's a very different motor, even though they share the same displacement. Obviously, chassis is the same. Different wheels, you get a full set of fairings. You know, this bike's putting down 190 horsepower to the rear wheel versus, 145, 150 of the Tuono 1100. Try to lug this thing below 4 grand, especially below 3 grand, and you get all kinds of horrible, valve train chatter. Also have a very strange low end vibration. A little bit of character. As I was saying with the Tuono, you want to rev through the clutch engagement. You don't want to, touch the clutch and then start building revs. I mean, this is the most elite track weapon that you can buy, with plates on it. Maybe the new S1000RR competes with it. It's, a much more modern, obviously modern design. This thing dates back to, I think, 2009. So, it's a fairly old design, but it's still an amazing bike. It's still probably the most intuitive leader bike, for track use, but the electronics are aging on it. It's no hotter than my 1199. It's definitely not as hot as the V4 Ducati. That thing is really fucking hot. I mean, that wouldn't prohibit me from buying the bike. If you're moving, it's fine. And in California, you're never really sitting because you can split lanes, so heat isn't really an issue. But it is hot here, you are just constantly sweating. There are no clouds ever. It's really hard to find shade. So the sun is just trying to kill you all the time. So, you always got to bring a change of clothes wherever you go. The tank is incredibly fat. Really, really spreads your friggin' knees apart. Sounds great. Very comfortable in the tuck position. I am surprised how clattery it is. I kind of like it. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it is very clattery compared to the Ducati V4. The Ducati V4 is much more refined than this bike in terms of engine clatter, its vibratory response in the motor, and the dynamics in the chassis. Blepa!